Hi folks, this is Hector Garcia, CPA and Advanced QuickBooks Pro Advisor. And one of the jobs or tasks that I find myself doing quite often is data import and automation. And when I look for an app for QuickBooks Online that can help me do data import and automation, typically I'm trying to solve the following pain points. 1. The source data with some or most of the relevant data to our accounting has already been created by some other system. In some cases, it's the source data from the bank, or it could be sales data from a website. In either case, quite often the data is sitting on a spreadsheet or some sort of computer-based format. Another pain point we want to solve quite often when we're trying to do data import and automation is take away the feeling of double data entry, that the user, small business owner, or accountant has entered the transaction information in some other system related to the business operations. And then because the data doesn't sync or automate into QuickBooks, we find ourselves entering the data again for a second time into QuickBooks, feeling like there's double data entry. Third, typically when we're dealing with large volumes of data, we have some challenges with accuracy. Either the pressures of having to finish the work on time and entering thousands and thousands of line items can get to the user and cause them to take some shortcuts or have some accuracy issues, or just the sheer volume of information drives the probabilities of inaccuracy to be higher. So via automation, we try to solve for some of those things. And another big pain point is that source data tends to be all over the place in terms of formats. Sometimes you get an Excel spreadsheet, sometimes you get a receipt, sometimes you get a full page invoice, and sometimes you get some sort of proprietary data format that most computer programs don't open. So we can effectively look for apps that will help us alleviate some of those pain points. We can achieve some automation and better efficiencies. Let's go check out some apps. Let's go ahead and click on apps on the left navigation bar. Then we're going to click on the search box and we can type multiple things like import. And you're going to see a couple of apps that have to do with importing data into QuickBooks. You can also type sync. And you can also see some apps related to syncing data into QuickBooks. You can search for automation and see some apps using that keyword. But probably the best way to go at it is to click on Browse Category and then go to a category called Data Sync. That's going to contain most of the apps that we're looking for. In the Data Sync category, first app we're going to review is this one called Excel Transactions Importer by SaasAnt. The second app we're going to review is called MoneyThumb Slick Connect. And the third app, we're going to type here AutoEntry, and we're going to review this app called AutoEntry. We're going to start with SaasAnt Excel Importer and Deleter. In this demo, which will take about 12 minutes, we will set up the app and do a brief overview of the app's look and feel. Then we're going to be importing some list entries. Then we're going to be importing some transactions, followed by modifying transactions in batch, then deleting transactions in batch. And throughout the presentation, you will get a good idea of the overall workflow between QuickBooks Online and SaasAnt. It is important to note that we're setting up this app from the perspective of the small business owner or QuickBooks end user. If you're an accounting professional that needs to access this app, you may need to get administrative access to be able to add the app into the company's file. Let's go ahead and get started with Excel Transactions Importer and Deleter by SaasAnt. We're going to click on that, click on Get App Now, and get started. Once we have QuickBooks Online synced with Excel Transactions Importer and Deleter by SaasAnt, you're going to see a couple of really important things. On the left navigation bar, you're going to see the dashboard button that would take you to the home page. You're going to see the new import button, which is going to be the most commonly used module where we're actually going to import the data. You're going to see the delete button, which will take you to the deleter tool that allows you to delete transactions in bulk. You're going to see the export tool that actually allows you to extract transactions from QuickBooks and create spreadsheets or export files that maybe you want to edit and change and then import back in. On the modify module, you can actually modify multiple transactions in QuickBooks in batch. And under file formatter, you can actually convert certain types of transactions that are really meant for QuickBooks Desktop, such as IIF files, into files that QuickBooks Online can actually import through this app. So let's get started with this Excel file that I have that contains a vendor list. On this Excel file, you notice that we have a whole bunch of vendor names. We have information such as company name, street address, city, phone number, and email. What we want to do is to take the data that's on the spreadsheet and import into QuickBooks without having to type it by hand. So we're going to go ahead and click on New Import, and then we're going to click on Browse File. Then we're going to select our vendor Excel file that we have in our computer. We're going to get confirmation that this file has been imported. We're going to click on Continue in the bottom right. Once the data has been uploaded, SaasAnt is going to ask you what type of transactions or what type of data are we importing. Notice that we have customer transactions, vendor transactions, other transactions, and then other. We're actually just importing a vendor list. So we're going to click on vendors under other. On the next step, we have to map. Mapping means we take the data that's on the spreadsheet and we match the header names to our QuickBooks fields. So in this particular case, we have a header name called vendor, header name called company, header name called street address. We now have to tell QuickBooks what fields inside QuickBooks this data represents. Under the first header called vendor, we have to now tell QuickBooks where is this data inside QuickBooks going to be imported to. You can actually click on the question mark to get a sample of the typical data that's inside the vendor, and you're going to see all the subtitles or all the titles in blue letting you know what is the technical name of the QuickBooks field, so you know exactly where inside QuickBooks you would like that data to be. So for example, we want that vendor column to go under display name as. So we have to look for this QuickBooks Online field to map it to. Let me click on close. Then I'm going to click on the drop down menu. I'm going to scroll down to name details, and I'm going to select display name as. I effectively connected the vendor in my spreadsheet with display name as in QuickBooks. And I'll go down the line and map all the fields. You also have the choice to import open balances or beginning balances for each of your vendors or customers. I'm going to select opening balance. Once I'm done mapping, I have two choices. I can either save this map, so if I'm going to import another spreadsheet that has the exact same configuration, I could quickly recall that map savings instead of having to do the exercise of matching the fields again. So I can click on More, I can click on Save Mapping, and I can call it vendor list. Click on save. And now I effectively have a vendor list predetermined mapping file that allows me to take the same spreadsheet and quickly import it without having to stop and check line by line. Then we can click on preview mapping. And based on the pre-selected fields, it's going to tell you in red exactly where all these pieces of data are going to be imported to. So I'm going to click on continue. On the next screen, we get a table or a spreadsheet formatted data set that looks just like our spreadsheet. And you're able to confirm, check, double check, or double click on any of the specific fields to edit them before they're going to get imported. Typically, we're going to have all this data to be accurate from the spreadsheet, so we shouldn't have to change it here on the fly. But if you want to do that, you have the capacity to do so. Under More, you can click on Preview, and you can see with your actual data where this information is going to be imported to. And finally, we're going to click on Upload. The next screen is going to say File in Progress. It will take a minute or less, depending on your file size, to finish importing. And once it's done importing, it will say File Import has been completed, and you can click on Show Results. On the Show Results page, you're actually going to see every entry that was entered into QuickBooks. You will also see a QuickBooks logo on the left-hand side where you can actually click on any of those entries to see specifically what imported inside QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, and you will notice that it opened up my vendor profile inside QuickBooks Online. You go back into SaasAnt, and at this point, if you think you made a mistake or you imported the wrong file, you actually can click on the delete button and effectively undo everything you did. If we go back to QuickBooks Online and we go into the Vendor Center, we're actually going to see all the vendors that were imported into my QuickBooks Online file. And if I click on Open Balance and sort by Open Balance, we're going to see that the vendors were also uploaded all with opening balances based on the data that was on the spreadsheet. Let's do another example, and let's import this spreadsheet that I have that contains open bills. So in this spreadsheet, we have date, transaction type, payee, category, due date, and balance. So we're going to take this information and we're going to import it into QuickBooks Online. So we're going to click on New Import. We're going to click on Browse File. We're going to select the spreadsheet. Then we're going to click on Continue. We have to tell it what type of transaction we're going to be importing. So we're going to select Bills. And now we have to do the mapping. So let's go ahead and match every field with a QuickBooks Online field. We actually don't have to map every single field inside the spreadsheet, because in some cases you will have spreadsheets that contain more data than what you want to import into QuickBooks. You can take any of the default empty columns and you can come down and select any of the QuickBooks Online fields and choose what data you want to override in there. So for example, I want to override the item name that I want to see on the bill, or maybe I want to override the account that I want to see on the bill. That data, in some cases, it's sitting on the spreadsheet, or maybe it's not. So you actually can override that data in there. So I'm going to go ahead and look at expense account. I'm going to click on the drop down and I'm going to click on override. Once I override, I can type in a free box exactly what account I want to be forcing those bills to be entered into. So I'm going to type cost of goods sold because I want all those bills to be hitting my cost of goods sold account. Then I'm going to click on review. We get a quick glance of all the information that was imported from my spreadsheet. If that is okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on upload. Then I get a list of all the transactions that were imported into QuickBooks. I can click on any of the ones with the QuickBooks logo, and it will open up QuickBooks to that specific transaction that was imported. I'm going to click on reports, expenses by vendor, just so I can show you the type of data that is in here. We're actually going to modify in batch using SaasAnt multiple transactions. So I'm going to click on SaasAnt. I'm going to click on modify. I'm going to click on browse file. And just for this example, let's assume that I have a spreadsheet of a list of a whole bunch of bills, but I want to massively change all those bills into a specific date. So I want to update the bills. I don't want to create new ones. I want to update the existing ones. So I got the spreadsheet that contains the bill number, the vendor name, and the new bill date. So I'll select the spreadsheet and click open. Then I click on continue. Then I'm going to select the type of transaction that I'm updating. I click on bills. Make sure my mapping is done correctly. Click on review. Now I can see that all these bills with these bill numbers are going to be updated to the new date. So I'm going to click on upload. Once it's done, we're going to click on show results. We can see all the transactions that were changed. I'm going to go back into QuickBooks. I'm going to click on run report so I can refresh this report. And this number should go down because some of those bills have been changed to a previous year. And there you go. Let me change the date to last year. Click on run report. So now we can check we have a whole bunch of bills dated last year. So now let's do the one last thing, which is delete transactions in batch. So we're going to go back to SaasAnt. We're going to click on delete. We're going to click on QuickBooks Online Real Time, Entity, Bills, search by transaction date. We'll go ahead and put last year's date here. Once the transaction list comes up, we can actually choose to delete some of these or all of these. Let's just select them all. And just to show you, here in QuickBooks Online, there's $5,000 worth of transactions with last year's dates. But we're going to go to SaasAnt and we're going to delete all of them. So we're going to click on delete. And then click on delete. A few seconds later, we go back into QuickBooks Online, click on run report. And now we have 0 transactions. So in summary, SaasAnt Excel Transactions Importer and Deleter is a great app to solve a very specific issue, which is we already have transaction information or list information sitting in a spreadsheet and we want to import that into QuickBooks. Or we want to take existing data that is in QuickBooks and be able to delete it in batch. And in some cases, we can take some of the data that's already in QuickBooks and massively change any specific component of it, such as date, amount, account, and that sort of thing. In this demo of MoneyThumb Slick Connect, we are first going to do a setup and overview. Then we're going to discuss the PDF import settings, followed by the PDF statement conversion process. Then we're going to do a import of all the transactions. Then we're going to show you the QBO workflow and the reclassification process. And finally, we'll do a summary of the app. Let's move on to MoneyThumb Slick Connect. I'm going to click on the Apps tab on the left-hand side of my QuickBooks Online. And then I'm going to search here Slick Connect. Once I find the app, I'm going to go ahead and click on that icon. Then I'm going to click on Learn More, and that's going to forward me into the MoneyThumb website where I go through a standard purchase process. Then I have to download the app. The app needs to be installed in a PC or in a Mac. The app is physically installed in the computer, but it connects to the cloud directly into QuickBooks Online. Once the app is installed and you launch it, you're going to have a couple of options. You can click on Settings first to tell it what type of bank or credit card you're trying to import into QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Settings. Then I'm going to select whether it's a bank or a credit card. I'm going to give it a name, and this should match my QuickBooks Online chart of accounts account name. So I happen to have a credit card account called Chase Visa. Then I hit OK. Then I'm going to click on Convert so I can select which is the PDF statement that I want MoneyThumb to convert. I'm going to go ahead and select this one. Click on Preview. Then on the preview screen, you're going to see all the transactions that were read from the actual PDF statement. Let me open up the actual PDF statement so you see what it looks like. So as you can see here, this is an actual PDF statement that I got from Chase. You see all these transactions with dates, with dollar amounts. And essentially what I don't want to do is to hand key this in, because for whatever reason, maybe I don't have access to downloading the transactions directly into the bank. Maybe I don't have online banking login, or maybe the bank itself doesn't allow me to have a direct connection. What Slick Connect allows me to do is for me to load the PDF bank or credit card statement. It will read it through OCR technology, and then it will push the transactions straight into QuickBooks. So from this screen, I can actually choose which transactions I want to import. If I don't want to import the entire statement, I can actually manually just check in the ones that I want to bring in, or I can click on the check all button and it will bring the entire statement in. So there are cases in which you only want to bring a certain number of transactions, and there are cases in which you want to bring in the entire statement. Then we're going to click on Convert. And then we're going to click on Import. So once I click on Import, it will ask me to connect my Slick Connect with my QuickBooks Online. Once the connection is done, we're going to click on the button that says Import. Depending on the number of transactions, this may take anywhere between 30 seconds and a couple of minutes. Once the import is complete, it will tell you how many transactions it has imported in total. You can switch over to QuickBooks Online, and you can click on the magnifying glass on the right-hand side if you want to see the most recent transactions that were brought in. So you can actually get a history of all the transactions that were brought in via Slick Connect. Also, if you know the exact account that you imported into, you can go straight through the chart of accounts. You can click on the bank account itself or the credit card account itself, click on View Register, and you can see all the transactions that were directly imported from the credit card statement. Now, one really important point, Slick Connect doesn't really know what categories each of the transactions are, so it leaves it up to the QuickBooks user to make that choice. So if you were to pull up a profit and loss statement, I'm going to go ahead and pull a profit and loss statement, you're going to see a whole bunch of transactions under the uncategorized expense category. So you can click on that and you can actually see all the transactions that were imported. Now you would have to either go to each one by one and reclassify it one by one, or you can use a batching tool such as expenses. And then we can click on filters. We can select category, uncategorized expense, click on apply. And then on this screen, we're going to see all the transactions that are sitting under uncategorized category. And we can simply through this screen, we can really quickly reclassify the transactions as we need them. And once you're done reclassifying all of them, you wouldn't see anything else in the expense transactions tab. You can go back to your profit and loss report, click on profit and loss, and you can see all the transactions that were imported in which you recategorized after the import. You can view through the reports, the vendor names, the amounts, and the dates. So you never really had to enter any of the transactions one by one. Again, with MoneyThumb Slick Connect, the ideal user would be someone that actually has access to the bank accounts and credit cards via a PDF document with monthly statements and not direct access to the bank via QuickBooks. If you have direct access to the bank via QuickBooks, normally QuickBooks can import the last 90 days worth of transactions and follow through and import the transactions daily. For anyone trying to bring in more than 90 days worth of transactions or connecting with any banks or importing transactions from banks that don't directly connect with QuickBooks, that's an ideal app. Let's move on to AutoEntry. In this demo of AutoEntry, which should take about 10 minutes, it is important to note that we're setting up the app from the perspective of the QuickBooks Online user. If you're an accounting professional, you may have to get administrative access to be able to add this app into the QuickBooks company file. We are first going to do an app setup and a general overview. Then we're going to upload a purchase or an expense transaction into AutoEntry. Then we're going to accept and categorize that transaction to be uploaded into QuickBooks. Then we're going to change over to uploading bank statements. Then we're going to code those individual transactions inside the bank statements that were read by AutoEntry. And then we're going to upload a sales transaction, such as a customer invoice, straight into QuickBooks. And finally, we're going to do a summary of the ideal transactions or documents that are good for AutoEntry to process for QuickBooks. So we're going to click on the Apps tab on the left-hand side of QuickBooks Online, and then we're going to search AutoEntry. There it is. We click on that. Then we click on Get App Now. And click on Connect. When you first log into AutoEntry, you will be on the company dashboard. You're going to see potentially multiple companies hooked up to AutoEntry if you're managing multiple businesses. To access the one that you want to start working on, just click on the link. Then you're going to see 5 options. You're going to see purchases, supplier statements, sales, bank statements, and expenses. Purchases will be mainly used to upload bills, accounts payable, into QuickBooks Online, to upload a statement from a supplier that maybe doesn't contain line items or expenses, just contains a group of bills that needs to be paid. Sales would be to upload invoices. So specifically, if you have another system that you're generating the invoices, accounts receivable, that you want to upload into QuickBooks, the sales section would help with that. Bank statements actually reads a bank or credit card statement and downloads the items, each line item in the statement, to upload into QuickBooks. And then expenses can either be used to download expense by expense to be sent to QuickBooks or to create expense reports grouped from multiple expenses. Let's start by clicking on purchases, and we're going to click on upload. You can have a couple of options. You can have automatic, item per page, single item, and capture multiple items. The way this works is the automatic will try to detect for you the type of document that you're uploading. If you're uploading one PDF that contains multiple pages, item per page will actually pick off each page as a separate receipt or a separate bill. And a single item will be if you have one document that contains multiple pages and you need AutoEntry to pick up all the information across multiple pages for that one bill. You also have the option to click on Capture Line Items, which means if you're uploading a bill that contains multiple items that are split on the bill and you want that split information to be uploaded into QuickBooks, you have that option as well. Then we're going to click and drag the file into this cloud icon, or we can click on Browse Files and select the receipt from there. Once the receipt is uploaded, you're immediately going to see it up here where it says Upload Queue. So you can upload multiple PDFs, multiple images, or files to be read by AutoEntry. On this same screen, you can click on multiple tabs here, such as supplier statements, sales, expenses, and bank statements, and you can upload all the documents into each of the categories from the same screen. Once you're done uploading documents, we're going to click on Browse AutoEntry to bring us back into the dashboard. Immediately after uploading the files being uploaded are going to be in processing stage. AutoEntry is going to try to detect all the items from the paperwork that you're being uploaded. And in some cases, this could take minutes, but in some cases, it will take hours because it has to check and double check against its algorithm to make sure it gets the best read possible. Once the documents are ready to be used, they're going to be sitting here in the inbox section. So you click on inbox and you're going to see this receipt that we uploaded. It's right there on queue waiting for us to decide what to do with it. We can click on the little eye icon, the AutoEntry icon, to preview it. On the right hand side, we're going to see the actual document that we uploaded. On the left hand side, you're going to see the extraction. It actually extracted the vendor's name, the total amount, the invoice number, the date, and some other pieces of information that it could understand from the document being scanned. At that point, you can select from your vendor list whatever vendor you want to choose, create a new vendor, and then select the category. So you can pick whichever category makes the most sense. You can add additional information here, such as reference or purchase order, whatever you want. And if you wanted to break it down by line item, you can click on Add Line Items. However, in this particular read, it's just going to be pointing to one category. Then we're going to click on Publish. And then once it's published, you're going to see that checkbox there under Publish, letting you know that that document has been uploaded into QuickBooks. Let's go over to QuickBooks Online and see exactly how that document came in. So I'm going to click on the magnifying glass, which will give me the most recent transactions. And I'm going to click on the bill that we just uploaded. That's the actual bill that we uploaded from AutoEntry. There's the vendor's name, there's the category, there's the description. You see the dollar amount and the bill number. All that information was extracted from AutoEntry. You will even see a link to the attachment where you can click on the attachment and it actually comes over the specific attachment that was sent to AutoEntry. It will come into QuickBooks Online so you can reference it in QuickBooks Online as well. Let's now take a look at a bank statement. AutoEntry can actually read bank or credit card statements and extract each line item inside the statement to upload it into QuickBooks. So you don't have to enter one by one if you happen not to be able to connect QuickBooks directly through your bank to directly download those transactions. So we're going to click on Inbox here where it says Bank Statements. And here's a credit card statement that I uploaded into AutoEntry. I'm going to click on the View icon so we can see what that looks like. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all the individual line items from the credit card that were read. And on the right-hand side, you get to see the actual preview of the PDF file that was uploaded into AutoEntry. With bank statements or credit cards, we have a specific task that we want to do. We either want to code it in AutoEntry to be sent into QuickBooks directly, or what we can do is we can click on Download, and we can select a CSV file or a QBO file that can be manually uploaded into QuickBooks to be done through bank feeds. However, if you want to use the AutoEntry workflow, we're going to click the returned list, and we're going to click here where it says Fast Code into QuickBooks. So you're actually going to have two options in terms of workflow to be dealing with bank or credit card statements. As I mentioned before, The first one would be to just extract the data and upload it through bank feeds. Or this one, the one you're seeing here on the screen, that's for us to code directly from AutoEntry. So to code, we simply create the vendor from here, and then select the category that would go with that particular expense. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the option to either bring it in as a check or as an expense. On the left-hand side, you see a publish icon letting you know that that's ready to be published. After you click on that, you're going to see now a QuickBooks logo and a check mark letting you know that that transaction was brought over to QuickBooks successfully. If I switch over to QuickBooks, click on the magnifying glass and click on the expense that we just brought in, you're going to see the transaction that was brought in from AutoEntry straight into QuickBooks. On this same screen, we can sort them by details, and we can take multiple transactions that are essentially the same thing. For example, we can grab these two transactions here that have the same vendor, just happen to have different dollar amounts. And then I can click on my drop-down menu and create my vendor. Click on Create Contact and select it. And you will see that it will automatically select the two transactions in one shot. Same thing would happen with the category. All the transactions that have been selected at the same time will be categorized at the same time. At that point, I click on Actions, Publish, and it will bring in those two transactions in one shot. Let's go ahead and click on Expenses, and we'll click on the magnifying glass, and we'll see the two transactions that were brought in from AutoEntry. Lastly, let's take a look at uploading sales transactions. We're going to click on Inbox to view the invoice that I just uploaded. We're going to click on the AutoEntry icon to view it. And on the right-hand side, what you're seeing is an invoice that was created with a different system other than QuickBooks. That was what we actually uploaded into AutoEntry. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the extracted data. So notice that the invoice number, the customer's name, the date, description, and dollar amount has been pre-filled for you from the read. All you have to do at this point is select the category, which would be the actual sales item that would you like to code that into. Then you would click on Publish. After it's been published, we can go into QuickBooks Online, click on the magnifying glass, and see the last invoice that was created. When I click on that, we're going to see the invoice that was created directly from AutoEntry. I can even click on the attachments box and see the actual sales invoice that was uploaded straight into AutoEntry. AutoEntry is an app that allows you to have multiple types of documents, such as receipts, bills, invoices, and bank statements that you can upload and use OCR technology to convert that information into digital data that QuickBooks can read and save you a lot of potential data entry. In summary, anytime that you know that you have transaction information, either on a spreadsheet, on bank statements, or on vendor receipts or bills, think about twice entering that data manually into QuickBooks. Using these three apps and many other similar apps can significantly improve your workflow, increase the accuracy of the data being entered, and significantly save you in bookkeeping time.